After 7 seasons that saw the Cuban Missile Crisis, the assassinations of JFK, MLK, and RFK, Vietnam, the rise of women's lib, and Neil Armstrong walk on the moon, Mad Men is finally coming to an end this weekend. Now, whether it ends with a bang or more complications in the complicated lives of Don Draper, Peggy Olson, Roger Sterling, Joan Harris, and the other Ad Men characters of the award-winning Matt Weiner-created series, the May 17th finale certainly leaves television and AMC very different places from when it debuted back on June 19th, 2007. Yet for a series that took a long arch approach to its seasons and storytelling, Mad Men is and will always be fundamentally about moments. Moments that reveal, that betray, and that touched us with the Weiner series. So here we have it, Mad Men, 7 seasons and 7 scenes. First up is this scene from the first season's Nixon and Kennedy episode, where a scheming Pete Campbell tries to destroy Ad Men kingpin Draper by revealing his stolen identity. Of course, Mad Men was so much about the John Hamm portrayed character's lies and struggle with who he really is. But here Draper finds an unexpected ally in senior partner Bert Cooper, played as always by the amazing Robert Morse.
Mr. Cooper, he's a fraud and a liar, a criminal even.
Even if this were true, who cares? This country was built and run by men with worse stories than whatever you've imagined here.
I'm not imagining anything.
If Don Draper was the focus of Mad Men, protege Peggy Olson was the heart, and her rise in the era of the 60s was both an intimate and universal story for viewers. This scene of Lost from season 2 in 2008 shows us a Peggy, played by Elizabeth Moss, that is far harder and more vulnerable than we ever knew before.
You got me pregnant. I had a baby, and I gave it away.
What?
The seemingly picture-perfect marriage between Dawn and former model Betty, played ice-cold by January Jones in the series, was always actually a narcissistic nightmare waiting to crash and burn. But the further shredding of the lie that Dawn had created of himself was the catalyst to destroy them in a time when few couples went for divorce. In this clip from season 3, Hamm's portrayal of a man both devastated and liberated by the truth of his lies was a tour de force.
Where do you want me to start?
What's your name?
Donald Draper. But it used to be Dick Whitman.
Who's that woman?
Put more than 2 Mad Men fans in a room and they will likely have differing opinions about what the best episode of the series was. However, no one will argue that season 4 of The Suitcase was one of the best episodes, as this late night at the office scene from the dead center of the series shows Peggy and Dawn letting it all out and emerging more as equals than either of them ever knew.
That's the way it works. There are no credits on commercials.
You got the Clio.
It's your job. I give you money, you give me ideas.
And you never say thank you.
That's what the money is for.
There are some, I'm sure, who will say the best scene from season 5 is in the Other Woman episode, where Peggy quits the firm. And I have to say, I'd have a hard time arguing with that, except this scene from the Signal 30 show, where Brit expat Lane Pierce schools the perpetually petulant Pete Campbell, is both a testosterone overload on a show that injected that mentality of the time into everything, and, I have to admit, a ton of fun.
I know cooler heads should prevail, but am I the only one who wants to see this?
As 2 failed marriages, a forced march of affairs, betrayals, and emotional detachment showed, Don Draper was a terrible husband. But the man who had such a bleak upbringing himself and willed himself into the American dream was actually a pretty good dad, the series revealed. In the series' long process of sporadically shedding the skin of his falsehoods, this scene from season 6 where Draper takes his 3 immensely privileged children to the whorehouse where he grew up truly requires few words.
This is where I grew up.
Now, maybe the last scene of the last episode of Mad Men should be on this list, or at least our season 7 pick. But honestly, as Matt Weiner has said repeatedly, this isn't the resolutions of Lost or even Breaking Bad. Mad Men is in the dark and gray areas and always has been. But with that said, this scene from the 3rd to last episode of the series, where a hungover Peggy finally walks into McCain Erickson now that it has taken over Sterling Cooper and Partners, is a triumph for her, her gender, and for the show. And let's just be honest, it's just so damn cool. So that's it, folks. Mad Men, 7 seasons and 7 scenes. Now there is nothing to do but wait for the finale itself on Sunday night at 10 p.m. See you, Mr. Draper. It's been a pleasure. I'm Dominic Patton for Deadline Hollywood.